It feels numb, like pressure. It's not bad. It doesn't hurt. I don't think so, at least. I like remembering a dream. It was bright. It was nice. I felt important.
Hi everyone, it's Wama and I hope you are doing well, and in today's video we are going to be diving into the Vita Carnis series, which is an analog horror series that we have taken a look at actually 2 years ago, so it has been quite a while. So if you are like me and you've forgotten a little bit of the lore, that's completely fine. You can totally check out the last video we did on the series, which covers every single episode, or you can just dive into the new episodes with me, as everything will kind of just start floating back to your memory. I feel like that's what happened to me when I started watching these new episodes again. But since the last time we've checked out the series, Darian Quillai has been working behind the scenes to bring us some even more disturbing lore in the world of Vita Carnis, including the long-term side effects of being exposed to one of the Vita Carnis.
Slight tremor in my fingers. I'm very disoriented, and my head is pounding. I'm also seeing silhouettes.
The most recent video came out about 2 days ago as the time of me recording this, and honestly I am very excited to jump back into this very creepy world. But before we begin, as always, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as well as liking the video and commenting bruh as usual, because all these things for some reason do help me out a lot. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So within the first episode of season 2, it's called New Beginnings.
Today something has happened within the restricted zone, where a large group of cultists have been apprehended. Several teams of military personnel have arrested some high-ranking cultists and have unmasked their identities to the public. Shockingly, several of these members are well-renowned politicians and high-ranking members of multiple governments across the globe.
Many documents have been released providing sufficient proof of the atrocities that were being committed. Some of these crimes include murder, kidnapping, torture, ritual sacrifice, and the list goes on.
The members are found guilty of deliberately providing false information to the public in an attempt to cause harm.
It starts off by saying restricted zone, large group of cultists were here, well-renowned politicians and well-ranking government officials. They were spreading false information to cause harm to the public. Public is demanding something to be done to handle the Carnis species.
Riots appear in the streets as protests begin to turn.
Our leaders were plotting against us. Who we trust? What happens now?
Test chamber 1 now in use.
Welcome to Magister's Wonder Show.
The tape then cuts out and we're brought to this segment of what appears to be a TV show called Magister's Wonders, where your host Magister takes you on a journey to learn all about the world's wonders. And in today's episode, Magister is teaching us about the circle of life.
I am the Magister, and get ready to explore all of the world's wonders. Today, we are learning about the circle of life.
But before we do, the tape glitches out and we're brought to this Carcass terminal entry. And just to kind of recap, the CARCAS, also known as Carcass, just to kind of say the entire thing, has been the organization that has been charged of researching the Vita Carnis and has all the information on them, at least that they've been able to discover. Dr. Marshall Trados, head director and doctor of Carcass Progress Report, Vita Carnis, date June 30th, 1991. And next is an audio log from Dr. Trados.
Test report number 4. We still know very little about the nature of the entities. There are 7 singularities in total. Each singularity is roughly 1 meter in diameter. They are made of an unknown material, although it looks and feels very similar to glass. We are unable to sample it in fear of causing potential damage. The material is very dark in color, but has red shimmers of light swirling inside. There are some hints of other colors present, but is mostly dominated by the red. Each entity hovers above the ground a stationary position, although they can be moved with relative ease. Our equipment can detect some subtle pulses of energy in rhythmic but random patterns. We don't know what they are. We don't know if it is breathing or communicating. We don't even truly know if they are even organic. This is nothing new, just confirming what we already know. Our first experiments didn't give any interesting leads. The most we got was some interference with electronics, especially when there is more than one kept close together. But the experiment we conducted showed extremely significant results.
In this audio log, he states how there's still much to learn about the entities, but that there are 7 singularities in total, meaning there are 7 of these red floating orbs, but the scientists are unable to determine what they are or what they are doing, though with the equipment they are able to detect these pulses of energy. From one experiment they conducted, they were able to find significant results, where they put a cow in the same room as the orb to see if anything would happen, and the only thing that was determined is that the cow became extremely stressed, which I mean makes sense because if it was in a closed off room with this super ominous orb floating above ground, I mean that seems like a lot of reason for this thing to be stressed out. But in the second experiment, they put the lifeless body of a cow in the room with the orb to see what would happen. After hours, the orb was able to turn the body of the cow into concentrations of Kroll without ever having to come into contact with it, almost like it released spores that slowly deteriorated the body.
"5 hours after the whole body had been ingested, concentrations of Kroll rapidly grew from several points from within the chamber. What this could mean, it rewrites everything we knew about the Vita Carnis species."
That allowed the Kroll to grow out.
First, a young larva hatches from within its egg.
After this, we're brought back to Magister's Wonder Show, where we're shown some facts on beetles before we're brought back into the Carcass logs, this time by a Dr. Rhodes Series, a coral specialist and head cultivator, dated July 31st, 1991, a month after the experiments done involving the cows. But in the second experiment, they put the lifeless body of a cow in the room with the orb just to see what would happen. This time the experiments are focused on the crawl, trying to figure out in what conditions make the crawl more likely to grow. One crawl is by itself, the second has more access to nutrients, which are these little guys right here, and the third is with exposure to radio signals. And from all these experiments, it seems that there has been a greater understanding on the Vita Carnis species, and now they're able to create different kinds of them.
We've successfully hatched a dozen Carnish juveniles, several trimmings, 2 meat snakes, and even 1 mimic. We will be sending them to the enclosures after everyone's reports get sent out.
Which is mentioned when they say they are able to create 7 trimmings, 2 meat snakes, and even a mimic, which out of the bunch may be the most terrifying, as it can replicate the voices and appearances of humans. But now it's just a question of why create these, most likely to better understand how each of them functions. Then it goes into a third progress report, this time by a Dr. Fawn Penitro, and this time the focus is on the social behaviors of the trimmings, in an experiment where a new batch of baby trimmings were added to the colony of fully grown ones.
A new batch of juveniles were added to the main colony at the beginning of the new progress report. They were accepted into the community immediately. No conflict or rejection observed. Trimmings communicate through a series of vocal cues. Colony members meeting the new batch with squeaks and squeals. They also are not afraid to show us when they are upset. Trimmings also use some physical displays as well. For example, trimmings do a chewing or chatter motion with their mouths when they are happy or interested in something.
In the second experiment, they tried to Pavlov the trimmings by feeding it treats when there is a positive cue and spraying it with cold water with a negative cue. But based on the trimming's reaction, I don't think that was just cold water. And when the trimming is placed back with the others, after a few hours, the whole colony picks up on the same audio cues as the one that was being tested on, meaning that their communication is incredibly in tune with one another.
Where we play the same audio cues.
But the strangest thing is that when the scientists found out that there was a colony of trimmings outside of the facility, they decided to play those same cues with the trimmings that had no interaction with the trimmings inside the building. But to their surprise, when the audio cues were played, the wild trimmings reacted the same.
We set up a radio device near the wild colony and near ours. Played the cues.
Meaning that they must be sharing some sort of hive mind, where one experience that one trimming has is shared with every trimming in existence. Also, I'm sorry, my throat kind of hurts right now. I do have a little bit of a sore throat, so I might be whispering in a lot of these recordings. So diving into the next video, it's titled Revealed Progress.
Now only the most beautiful, only the most unique specimens will be moving forward.
There are lots of fossils hidden on the Earth, and plenty make their way into rivers and streams. You can look for them too.
Within the tape, the experiments continue, and this one being conducted by Dr. Asram Griffiths, which I mean, like, damn, there's so many people making these audio logs, it's a little hard to keep up. But what's interesting about this one is that it takes place in March of 1992, and for reference, the last experiment that took place involving the trimmings happened on June of 1991, so it's been a little bit less than a year since the last update. But within the audio log, it is on the meat snakes. So within the test, they had the meat snake restrained in this lab, leaving it unable to move. They were, however, feeding it every single day to keep it alive. But what is strange is that eventually the meat snake stopped moving as days went by, even though it kept eating. And even though it kept eating, it still continued to get weaker and weaker as time went by, and even started to require assistance to even feed it.
The specimen has slowed down immensely. It has also been occasionally rejecting food. It looks like we have been overwhelming it, not giving it enough time to properly digest and implement the material. Feeding has been reduced to once a day, but with an increase of portion size. 19 days into feeding. The meat snake has almost shut down entirely. It no longer reacts to external factors.
They also tested the durability of the meat snake's skin and found it's able to withstand heats of up to 5,000 Celsius or 9,032 degrees Fahrenheit. Eventually, the meat snake was able to escape by performing mitosis and splitting itself into two. But it's unclear why having the snake restrained caused it to lose its motor abilities. Perhaps in order to keep itself alive, it does need to consume creatures that are still living. And out of fear of death, it split itself in two in order to escape the restraints to stay alive. Things fast forward to September of 1992, and this log is recorded by Dr. Farron Brones regarding the progress and growth of the juvenile mimics. It's odd because when the juveniles grow older, their diet becomes solely reliant on consuming human flesh, so the ones that they grow in the lab all die of starvation. Dr. Farron even says that sometimes his team will bring in some that they've found in the wild, and that those typically live longer because they've already had flesh in their system. And the more that they consume, the more easily they can take on the form of a human. Mimics fully grown are about 160 centimeters in height, or 5.2 feet. However, they do have the ability to fit into exceptionally tight spaces.
Older adults still fit exceptionally well in tight places. It's funny, we didn't even know they could do this until the late 70s. They weren't even called mimics then. They were called, butchers. The best candidates for research are the ones we capture out in the wild. They last longer, most likely due to them already having food and nutrients in their systems. It's not something I dwell on too often. I am thankful for the ones they bring in for me. I got several adults, even a few humanoid ones.
In the final log it states, November 27th, 1992, footage of the incident with V1 involving the cleanup team in test chamber 1. In the footage we can see what the orb has done to the test chamber, and someone is stuck inside.
Personnel room 21.
Help! What happened? My leg's tied. It's bad. It's bad. I'm bleeding. What do I do? I can't reach. What do I do? Help me down, please. Please. We need medical assistance in test chamber 1. Stay calm. Help is on the way. Just try to stay
Damn
still.
it! Oh, God!
All right, we're here. We're going to help you. Lower the ladder slowly. This is going to hurt. Okay, hold still. Ready? Now.
What's happening? What's happening to him? Get him out of here now! Get him out!
I'm honestly not feeling great, so I'm gonna have to record this another day. So fast forward to a couple of days later. Hopefully I feel better. Alright, so it has been a couple of days, and thankfully my throat is starting to feel a little bit better. I can finally record. My throat was really bad for like 4 days, I think, so this is 4 days later. Hi. So in the next tape, it's called Terminal Rally. It begins with this message from February 1st, 1995, which takes place 3 years after the last experiment and 3 years after the scientist was killed by the orb. The message says, quote, "I have a request. One of the researchers I know has been missing for their progress reports. I knew he would miss a few since he got approval for one of his field projects, but it has been 4 months. I know it isn't my place to ask you of this, but I am worried. I wouldn't ask you if I wasn't sure something was wrong. I found out where he was researching. Unfortunately, you know the area well. I will send what information I have. Signed, B." And in the next audio log, we are revisited by Dr. Farron Brones, which is the same scientist that conducted the experiments on the growth of mimics. And in this audio log, the research on the mimics continues.
Personal log. It finally happened. I got permission and some equipment to go out in the field. It's not much, but I can definitely work with this. We've got sensors, cameras, and even some stuff I whipped up. I'm heading to the location now to set it all up. No one else wanted to help, but that's fair for what I've got planned. I'll make another log once I've got everything set up. And log.
In Dr. Farron's audio log, he talks about how he's finally been given permission to take his research into the field as he tries to conduct more research on mimics in the wild. Which I'm not even gonna lie, before I even watched this, I already kind of knew that this wouldn't end well. I mean, researching mimics in the field where you don't have the safety of the facility just kind of seems like not a great idea. He does say, however, that he has a pistol with him. I'm not sure how much that's going to help him though, because I'm also pretty sure that he isn't really familiar with the pistol and doesn't really know how to work it, and his aim is probably won't be the greatest.
Okay, everything is now finished up. I have some of the equipment at this main door.
motion sensors in the camera pointed right down here. It's not much, it's not pretty, but it will work for the time I've got. There are a few sensors and cameras in the other rooms as well. Basically some nanny cam set up to record when motion is detected. And here is where I will be staying. I've reinforced the door, just in case. A bit messy, but it should work. It has a barricade as well. And if worse comes to worse, I'm not completely defenseless. Here are some lights I've set up to light up when one of the motion sensors gets triggered, so I can know which room they are in. I've got rations of energy bars and water that will last me the 20-day period. The water doesn't fully work. The toilet does though. Very thankful for that. Anyways, I guess I should go ahead and should do my job.
During Dr. Farron's recording, he does get a little too excited that there is a mimic in the same house as him.
Oh my god, I grabbed this as fast as I could to record. The front entrance light turned on, then moved into the hall. It's day 3, just barely. It's about 2 in the morning. They haven't moved too much. Wow. Now they're in the living room. Main bedroom. It's looking around.
And I'm all for the prospect of research, but it doesn't really seem like he has any fear whatsoever in his voice, which he probably should given how dangerous mimics are. It's almost as if he's gotten too comfortable with their presence in the lab that he doesn't fear them as he should in the wild, which leads him to make the terrible decision of opening the door to try and see one face to face.
It's been another 2 hours. Nothing has happened. I'm worried I accidentally scared it off. Or it's not even a mimic. We're going to do something stupid. Okay, I'm going to go and check what happened. I'm going to try and play it safe. Going slowly. Okay. Here we go. Gun, just in case.
By day 3, Dr. Farron is still in the bathroom, but now he's stuck because the mimic is guarding the door, waiting for him to open it up again. And basically the mimic at this point is just trying to starve him out until he's no longer able to resist opening the door. The next audio recording is days later, and he's been in there for 6 days now. Dr. Farron is holding out hope that HQ will send someone to save him.
Day 9. No movement detected. I think it's time. I can't keep staying here. I'm beginning to lose it. I need to leave. Gather my stuff and leave. I need to be careful. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. Okay. I've got everything I need. Oh, got it in hand. It's time to go.
Day 11 and Dr. Farron has completely lost it, and as the days go by, his mind is essentially rotting inside his own head. Day 16, Dr. Farron is desperate and plans to run out of the room shooting his gun.
It's been 16 days. I'm tired, but I don't care anymore. I need out. If I go out, guns blazing, I could scare it at least. Or maybe even kill it. Then I just run as fast as I can, and I could possibly make it out. Then I... No.
17, Dr. Farron describes how he was able to shoot the mimic in the face, but it's still alive. He says that perhaps by day 20, he'll have the courage to do it again. Come day 20, and Dr. Farron puts it in his mind that today is the day that he will be free. But then day 22 comes around, and he's still there. And by day 28, his food and water has been finished, and at this point he's figured out that he was never sent here to gather more research on the mimics. Rather, he was sent here to die, but doesn't know why, saying that he's going to hide this tape in case they do come here to collect the evidence, in hopes that someone will find it and know the true reason he was killed. And so by this point, Dr. Farron has accepted his fate, a death by the very subject he's dedicated his life to researching.
It's been 28 days. Food has run out. I know, now. I know. I was too dumb to realize. But I have it figured out. They sent me here to die. I didn't know why, but they did. But I don't think they knew that I would figure it out eventually. I've hid this video recorder so that if they do come, they won't find it. Hopefully someone will. I will leave one last audio log for them. Audio log? It's been 28 days. Hope is lost. He waits for me now. He will claim his kill. Soon, probably hears me right now. But I know now. I'm ready. I know he knows. This is it. There you are.
Footage was recovered from Farron's personal recorder. The camcorder was hidden under the sink next to Farron's body. None of his other equipment or supplies shown in the footage were present in the home. I'm sorry to say things are much more dire than expected. And by the end of the day, Dr. Farron is killed by the mimic that had been stalking him pretty much since day one. And it's pretty sad that the creature that he spent his whole life researching ended up taking his own life. But in a way, it's almost poetic, where before he did all of his research with the mimics behind bars, and perhaps that subconsciously trained him to not be afraid of them, and so when he was actually in the field, he severely underestimated them, no matter how much time he spent looking at them every single day. However, one thing that is strange is that why Carcass wanted to make sure that Dr. Farron was killed, as I don't really see a reason as to why they would benefit from him being killed by a mimic, as he was the main person researching these creatures. But perhaps the reason behind this will be revealed in the following tapes. And in the description of this video, there's actually an unlisted video listed, a video called ZUV Boppy HOSPSVVM. The tape is a police interrogation between a detective and someone named Simon Vanguard.
Simon Vanguard. You had some very interesting connections in your community. Some very important people. Any chance you'd like to tell us how that came to be? Or your connections to Triarco?
Within the interrogation, the detective asks how he can become the leader of a specific cult, the cult that is observed with the Vita Carnis species, the same one that involved various political and powerful figures.
Several of these members are well-renowned politicians and high-ranking members of multiple governments across the globe.
There's also a mention of the railway tunnel from 1945, which seemed to trigger a response from Simon.
So, we know about your connections to the railway tunnel in 1945. We also know that you were involved when the creature disappeared in 47. What was the reason you kept feeding it after the war?
and this being a reference to when people discovered this massive meat snake in season 1, where one day it just mysteriously vanished, but now the detective is under the suspicion that Simon and his cult took the snake somewhere and continued to feed it to see how big it could get. Simon finally breaks during the interrogation and tells the detective that he views these creatures as higher beings, to do as they say and not to question what they say, devoting themselves completely to the Vita Carnis species.
So important that you blindly follow these entities.
You don't question their will.
And why not?
Follow their will. Their great vision. Their great light.
They say you have visions. These visions of yours. What do they say?
You must do as they say. Don't question it. It's all for something greater than us.
What is it? What must you do?
No. I must follow. I devote myself to the great truth. To stray from darkness and meet the light. Through wonder and wisdom.
Hey, calm yourself. Hey, stop! I need security! I need security in here now!
Little information was learned about Simon and his motives, and in the last clip of the video, we can see what Simon did to his own face, disfiguring himself to make himself appear like one of the Vita Carnis, specifically a mimic. So in the most recent installment of the Vita Carnis series, this video called Dire Measures came out a couple of days ago. At least from the time when I was scripting this, it came out like the day before, but then I got sick, so now it's been like a week. But in this one, it begins by stating July 3rd, 1999. It says, quote, "I don't know how much time I have. I think they're beginning to realize what I am doing. I've sent over one last package containing anything I thought looked important. If I don't contact you again, assume the worst. I know how hard it is to combat this alone again, but I don't think we have a choice. You figured it out before. You can do it again before it's too late. Good luck to you. Signed, B."
Sleeping is the body's way of taking a break, allowing it to grow and repair itself. Your brain goes through 4 cycles of sleep.
Harvester bulb now an acceptable size to begin testing. The bulb will be transferred into a specialized holding cell designed for research of harvester behavior. But after this, the tape cuts out and we're brought into that classified log, one dated in August of 1991. Quote, "After the capture of the new Trier cult at Facility 0 and the securing of the entities, Teams Alpha, Beta, and Gamma did a sweep of the facility. Contained within were multiple items that were deemed of interest. 2 of these items were a living Imperium Carnis, or the host of influence, and a collection of different types of powders. Types of powders led to the classification of 3 distinct substances. A. Vial of host spores. B. Vial of Neutrier's flavor enhancer. C. Host spores. Unknown composition. The host of influence was captured and contained at the Carcass facility for research purposes, the goal being to understand the nature of the host, as well as the use and purpose of the 3 powders to the new Trier cult. In the test report it states, spore exposure and its effects. The host would be placed in a modified cell that would have ventilation holes to another cell. A test subject will be placed in the opposing cell and be exposed to the expelled spores. Test report, spore exposure and its effects. The subject will then be decontaminated and quarantined to monitor behavior. Once the symptoms subside, the subject will give a vocal and written report of the effects they felt while under influence. Reports for the tests are as follows.
poisonous sting cells have hollow barbs to stun and eventually kill prey.
In the first stage, your body begins to relax and your brain activity begins to slow.
The next report is dated 4 years later in January of 1995. Bulb added to the holding cell. Once it has finished setting into its new environment, we shall start testing. Bulb has reached maturity and is now ready for the next stage of testing. Now that the harvester is large enough, it is possible to sustainably extract the venom from the tendrils. Obtaining the venom in a safe manner will prove to be difficult given the risk of lethal injection. One method that could be used to obtain the venom would be to lower a silicone sponge that can be pierced and absorb the injected venom when placed onto harvester grounds. During the first test for harvestal tendril sensitivity, where we lowered a dummy onto harvester grounds, the bulb displayed its efficiency in trapping prey. To scrap the idea of a silicone sponge, given the aggressiveness of the harvester and the damages it may cause, leading to a potential failure in venom extraction. And going into the next entry, it involves a test subject named Vita Carnis. This experiment involving the Vita Carnis, also known as the host of influence, and this one is dated back in October 1st of 1991. In the first test, the test subject is exposed to the spores. Exposure 1. Subject exposed to the spores. Mild irritation displayed when inhaling. The host seemed agitated by the presence of the subject, attempting to attack them when given the chance, damaging the barrier. Subject removed from the cell promptly for decontamination. The next day, the subject was quarantined for 36 hours until symptoms subside. The subject under influence waits at the door in a mindless state. Because recalling from Season 1, the host of influence is able to control the minds and bodies of its victims if they are inside of the harvester's grounds.
If the infected makes their way to the host, they will kneel down in front of it, expose their vital organs, and the host will promptly gut and remove those organs. The host will consume them and discard the leftover scraps.
In the audio recording, the subject, named Vita Carnis, discusses their experience after being infected with the spores that came out of the host of influence.
I feel tired, and I have aches in my legs and arms. I'm also quite nauseous. Not dizzy, but foggy, if that makes sense. I don't feel too bad overall. The worst I feel is very hungry and thirsty.
Next, we get this self-report from Leto, which asks him to describe what he's feeling. He says, "My vision was darkened and blurred, like wearing glasses of the wrong prescription. Sounds were muffled. I felt a heaviness in my mind. It took extra effort just to do the actions I thought of. Then I was filled with a blind need to leave my room. I couldn't explain why, like forgetting why you walked into a room, but instead it is forgetting why you were leaving one. My ears rang the entire time." So Leto is definitely feeling the effects of these spores, as they are making him lose some pretty key bodily functions, like being able to see clearly, having a foggy mind, and having these very strange urges to walk into rooms that he didn't need to go inside. His ears are also just constantly ringing now. On June 23rd, 1995, given no safe options at the time, resulted in sedating the harvester and manually siphoning out the venom. Venom extraction this way has proven effective. We managed to extract 2 milliliters of each venom from a total of 5 spines each. The paralysis venom on the left is more abundant in each spine than the anticoagulant venom to the right. October 5th, the second exposure with the test subject begins. The subject again experiences agitation. The host still displays aggression, but then appears less irritated. Subject quarantined while still displaying mindlessness. The subject was greatly distressed by their containment. While initially concerning, the symptoms again eased. The second audio log goes as follows.
I'm much more, I'm exhausted now. My joints feel tight, and my muscles as well. There's a slight tremor in my fingers. I'm very disoriented, and my head is pounding. I'm also seeing silhouettes, and my vision is, I don't know, like if you looked at a light for too long and it gets burned into your vision. I'm getting better though. I think I should be fine to continue.
Written report. My eyes hurt. Everything was too out of focus. It was dark. I saw flashes of light just out of sight. The ringing drowned out most noise. I can't remember anything I did after being forced up again. Just trying to get out. I need to get out. The test subject is not getting any better, as he so claimed. It's getting worse. Exposure 3. Subject displayed unusual symptoms. The host appears to have mellowed out and displayed curiosity for the subject. While in the middle of quarantine, the subject began hitting themselves against the door in a means to escape. The subject was swiftly detained and restrained to prevent further harm. After the effects wore off, the subject assured that they are willing to continue the test.
It feels numb, like pressure. It's not bad. It doesn't hurt. I don't think so, at least. I remember something. I can't pin it though. Like remembering a dream. It was bright. It was nice. I felt important.
I seen figures dance in the dark. I want to catch them. Why were they there? What did they want to say to me? I couldn't hear their whispers. So much ringing. I need to hear what they said. Why did they need me? Why was I called? July 25th. We can conclude that harvester tendrils will not be triggered by trimming test subjects. While we could include that other members of the Vita Carnis may also share this protection, more testing is required. Exposure 4. Significant findings during exposure. The spores emitted from the host now have a distinct red hue instead of its usual orange appearance. The host displays mellow behavior. Subject was restrained to their bed to prevent any further harm that they may do to themselves. Despite this, the subject tries to resist the restraints while under influence.
I see it. It is dark, but a light so beautiful. I devote myself to the great truth, to stray from darkness and meet the light, for wonder and wisdom. I serve my Lord. I serve my Lord. I serve my Lord. I serve my Lord.
Given the clear mental strain on the subject, testing has been halted indefinitely. The following footage is from an investigation on Bruce Phoenix conducted by a man named Marshall, full name Marshall Trados, who is the head director and doctor at Carcass. Within it, Marshall details how a number of tapes have gone missing from the archival room and suspects Bruce is potentially distributing these tapes to outside sources.
Trados, why am I here?
Calm yourself. We're just going to ask a few questions. The restraints are just a precaution.
What?
Relax.
Okay.
So, Bruce Phoenix, you are the manager in our files department, is that correct?
Yes.
What would you say you do?
I, organize documents, process reports, tapes, files, mainly with our experimentation unit.
I see. The reason I ask is because I believe there have been some issues recently with your department. Have you noticed anything?
No. I don't think so.
Really? Nothing at all?
No. It seems to be in order to me. Why?
Well, I ask because we had a look through our documentation and noticed some inconsistencies.
Like what, sir?
We noticed that there has been some tampering with some particular documents. Classified documents. Nothing too big, but it seems someone's been covering some things up. Well, you are the head of that department, so we thought you would know something. Are you sure you don't know anything?
I'm sure.
I'm sure too. You know, loyalty is an important part of how we work here. We handle some important things, classified things we don't want getting into the wrong hands. So when we find out that someone has been smuggling documents behind our back, that is awfully concerning. Especially when that person, I don't know, is lying right to my face.
I'm not lying, sir!
Stop! Especially when we have them on video. Which leads me to ask, why are you taking tapes out?
I can explain! I was just...
Stop! I don't need to know what you were doing with them, but I do need to know one thing. Who are you sending them to?
No one!
Who are you sending them to?
Please, sir, listen! I was just organizing them and I had to move them!
Who are you in contact with?
Marshall, please! I'm not lying!
We are past that, Bruce. Why do you think this was acceptable? What you were doing threatens national security. You are actively threatening the progress of the human species.
No! I'm trying to save the human species. What we are doing here is wrong! It's those things! They have brainwashed you! They are messing with your judgment. Safety protocols, basic upkeep, reckless experiments. This isn't progress! This is madness! You're becoming like those monsters who worship them! Please, Marshall. We need to stop.
I'll ask one last time. Who are you contacting?
Never. I'm done. I won't be a part of this. I'm done.
Cut the cameras.
After Marshall cuts the camera, he's gotten the information he was looking for. Bruce is the mole distributing these tapes, and so Marshall takes it upon himself to make his own.
Have you watched some of the tapes of the experiments we do? It's interesting, some of the things in there. Did you know in harvesters that both of the venoms they inject are lethal. The neurotoxin doesn't just block the nerve signals, it directly attacks each nerve, causing sudden paralysis in muscles moving deeper into your vitals. But for each nerve that dies, you feel every single thing. But all you can do is sit in silence as your nerves burn away until your heart stops beating, your lungs stop breathing, and your brain shuts down. Fortunately, usually the other venom causes you to bleed out first. Sir, what are you doing? Fortunate indeed. Sir, please. No, please don't. Don't, please don't. No. I'm sorry, Marshal. No.
And the final tape in the series ends there, but before Bruce was killed, he was being injected with the venom from the Vita Carnis, which results in an incredibly agonizing death where all of the blood in his body is drained out. Bruce talks about how what they are doing at Carcass could destroy the world, and most likely he is referring to the long-term effects of being exposed to the host of influence can do to us, which I'm pretty sure Marshall is already feeling those effects, as he is no longer operating with the benefits of mankind in mind, but with the Vita Carnis in mind. And we saw this with the test subject named Leto, as after continued exposure to the host of influence, he slowly began losing his mind to the point where all he could think about was serving the host. And this kind of exposure is most likely what happened to all of the members of the cult, where after continued exposure to the host, this kind of altered their minds to where all they could think about was serving their new god, which is the host of influence now. But yeah, honestly, I'm very much digging season 2, as there is a lot of development when it comes to the specifics of Vita Carnis, which is pretty cool. I know in season 1 it was kind of just like an overview of all of these kinds of different creatures, but now we kind of have lore into what is going on at Carcass and actual individuals involved in progressing the story. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Do you think Vita Carnis will slowly take over the world, or will there be kind of a war that eradicates the entire Vita Carnis species? And if so, do you think humans will win that war? I don't know, I have my doubts. I don't think they're gonna win. But yeah, I do want to give a huge shout out to all of my beautiful channel members, as well as my ultimate tiers, Kareem Ariano and Alejandra from the Tower. If you do want early access to videos, as well as your name right here, it's only $1.99. But yeah, I'll see you guys later. I hope you enjoyed this kind of longish video. I'll see you later. Bye. Love ya.